Yes, so I just wanted to say that I'm from the human-centered computing section of DIKU, and I feel very at home there. I'm really happy to be at DIKU. I did my PhD at ITU, so it's nice to cross over. In the human-centered computing section, we aim to fundamentally understand and improve the relation between computational technologies and people. So the people is a big part of my research, for sure. So my research is about post-COVID syndrome. I'm going to be also calling it long COVID, sen følger efter covid på dansk. And it is a condition where symptoms persist for 3 months or more after being infected with COVID-19. And I'm sure that most of you know it, but I'm just going to give a quick overview anyway. So common symptoms include fatigue, kind of chronic levels of fatigue, not just being tired, breathlessness, cognitive issues, pain, post-exertion malaise, where any kind of activity causes a worsening of symptoms afterwards. And there's still no treatment for long COVID, unfortunately. And there's a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation about this illness, so kind of have that in mind during my talk. And this phenomenon has really led people with long COVID to turn to anything to help themselves. So one thing that people with long COVID have turned to has been fitness tracking watches. And actually there's a personal angle to my research. Unfortunately, I also had long COVID for about 3 years. I've been back at work for about a year now, and I also helped myself when it was a completely unknown experience. What is happening to me? I had COVID and suddenly I can't walk. What is going on? So I bought a Fitbit because I felt like something was going on with my heart. But as we know, fitness tracking technologies, they're there to make you do more, right? Like run faster, walk more, raise your heart rate. Completely the opposite of what somebody needs when they have long COVID. So in order to start studying this, I interviewed people with long COVID who were using fitness tracking technologies. And we found that they used a range of commercial devices. These are ones that anybody can buy. These are not things that are prescribed by doctors. These are found in Elgiganten, and the most popular was Garmin. And what we found in our research was really interesting in terms of how these technologies gave our participants a sense of control over something so uncontrollable. So this participant said, and I'm going to stick quite close to the quotations because I really want to share these stories with you. So especially in the beginning, when your body's just going crazy and you don't understand anything what is actually happening because it is a completely new illness, the fitness watch, was very helpful to better understand my body. And the main kind of motivation for these people to adopt these technologies was to use them to pace. So pacing is the kind of strategy where you limit your exertion in order to not crash. So for example, when I had long COVID, if I couldn't run, for example, because then I'd crash, right? So I would have to kind of cipher out my walking throughout the day. So one way that these people used their technologies to pace was based on a diagnosis. So if I've not managed to get a good below 10 stress score overnight, I'll reduce my spoons for that particular day. And the spoons is a kind of common method referring to the amount of energy somebody has for that particular day. So it could be 10 spoons. So 3 of them might be spent on, or this person might reduce those spoons to 7 for that particular day. Also real-time pacing. So I use it anytime I'm active and I'm concerned that my heart rate will go too high. It's almost like having someone on my shoulder going, sit down. So a lot of people talked about having decided on a kind of maximum heart rate that they could have when walking, for example. So going up the stairs, if it was going above 110, they would stop and wait for a few minutes till their heart rate went down. Another way was preventative pacing and really informing their understanding of what they could do in terms of planning their days more sustainably to avoid a crash. So it's like future me knows that past me didn't enjoy that so much. So do it a different way. I find it interesting to look back and find things that my body found stressful. But one really interesting thing that came out during our interviews was the dominance of the quantitative data over our participants' felt experience of their illness. So we had one participant who really enjoyed going to flotation tanks. I don't know if you've heard of these. You could lie in body temperature water and without any kind of sensory inputs, and she found it very relaxing and always slept so well afterwards. And then she got a Fitbit or a Garmin, and she realized, looking back on her data, that her heart rate had been incredibly high during that whole time. So it kind of rewrote the narrative of the flotation tanks as something that wasn't relaxing, that made her sleep better, but rather as something very stressful, and she slept better because she was so tired. So the dominance of these technologies is really powerful. Again, like referring to the fact that long COVID is a very specific kind of cultural phenomenon as well. You know, there's a lot of misinformation and almost conspiracy theories around the vaccine, around all these things, right? So it was really interesting that our participants saw the data as being proof of the illness for so many reasons. And also you can't actually, well, they're just developing a biomarker test for long COVID. Until now, there's not been any test to diagnose this illness, right? So there was a time when I was like, oh my God, am I making this up? Am I going insane? So to have those physical signposts made me feel a lot better about it. The data could also act as proof for family and friends. So this person used their data, they showed the graph to a friend and said, look, here at the bottom, this is your worst hangover, you know, and this is how I feel every single day. So it was a way to communicate to other people how they felt. Also proof for healthcare providers. Unfortunately, healthcare providers are also very often maybe a little bit cynical about long COVID, as well as other chronic fatigue syndromes. So the data could act as proof that something was really happening. It's like having your own mini advocate, that I could go, no, there is something wrong. I'm not making it up. It isn't all in my head. So proof of the body changing in kind of unusual ways. But of course, as I said at the beginning, the fitness tracking technologies are not designed for chronically ill people. They're designed for healthy people to get even healthier, right? So we found many, many examples of these frictions, and really interesting frictions between the designed intention of the device and the actual use of it here. So this one is just one out of many, honestly. They said, I couldn't even go move my little finger, let alone get out of bed. And your watch tells you, come on, get up, go and do some exercise. You're like, no, not going to happen. You know, that difference there. So this was kind of the first study of this project, and I'm going to just talk about some work in progress. So since I started this project in, I guess, 22 maybe, several companies, but predominantly one called Visible, has come onto the market. And these are offering, you know, they're taking basically what people have been doing by hacking the fitness tracking technologies and offering them a specific pacing technology. And I'm going to be collaborating with some of these companies and researchers in designing specific pacing technologies for people with these illnesses. And this will include something which will build on the findings I have of developing a clinical dashboard. So how can we support that sharing of data between the patient and the clinician in terms of pacing? And the really exciting thing about this research is, you know, it's not only long COVID, people with long COVID who experience fatigue, right? It's a lot of illnesses. It's people with stress, it's burnout, it's neurodiversity. So this is a really important topic to start to understand fatigue. And again, like this project with clinicians is going to engage with those concerns of doctors about the inaccuracies of self-tracking technologies, as well as, you know, the anxiety that patients experience when having access to their own data. You know, there's a lot of challenges to overcome that are very interesting from a research perspective. On a more kind of concrete level, I'm also prototyping some examples of what pacing technologies could do. And this research is based on some co-design, participatory design research I've done with people with chronic fatigue syndrome and long COVID. So this project is looking at how we can communicate pacing data beyond a graph on a smartphone. And one of the big kind of findings of working with people with these syndromes is that screens are a big problem. You know, they're basically inaccessible. So we're exploring right now about using vibrotactile feedback, so like the pulse on your mobile phone, you know, the little vibration, and different kind of speeds of these vibrotactile feedbacks to communicate different levels of fatigue or energy. So the idea right now, it might change, is that you know, the slower the pulse is, the less energy someone's got, and the faster, the more energy that it's got. So by resting, the pulse will speed up. And as I said, you know, the dominance of the data is something that we might want to kind of negate in some ways. So we've also exploring using sensors so that a user can tap their own rhythm and start to think about kind of what they're feeling and how they can have a conversation with the quantitative data without kind of overriding their experience. And we're exploring what these devices could look like and feel like. As Jakob said, I'm from an interaction design background. We do dabble in hardware, actually, in the HCC section. And I think it's really interesting to kind of question what medical technologies can be and what they can look like. And that's something I've explored in my previous research as well. So here I'm working with a jewelry designer, actually. So this is a bronze cast that we're maybe looking at integrating into this prototype, and this is leather, and you know, this is not a medical device, this is something to be used in the home and close to the body. So how should it feel, how should it be shaped, how should it work? Those things are still to be explored. And the idea is that, you know, this device is not only giving you information, but can also be a therapeutic device itself. That was something that our participants really wanted, so that you can stimulate your vagus nerve to calm down the body through vibration. So that's also an aspect of the design. Okay, I think I'm done. Thank you so much.